If you want to drive revenue, you need to connect with people in a meaningful way and build a real, authentic relationship, more than just create a great experience. You need to build that trust. You need to bring the best of an entire company to that interaction and get to know people the right way.
What's up, everyone? Hope everyone's having a great day. I'm very excited for another episode of Business Human. Today, we have Jim Benton, the CEO of Chorus.ai on the show. Jim, what's up, man?
Hey, Scott. Good to be with you. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. I got to say, have been a Chorus customer for, probably over 3 years now. And not to do a commercial, but I'm going to do a commercial. It has changed a lot of the ways that we've built our business because it's helped us understand our customers better.
Right back at you. I've been a customer of Troops for many, many years. Huge fan.
So very grateful for you and the company that you're building. And, you know, we're trying to do something a little bit different here, where a lot of times with a lot of podcasts I've been on that I've run, you know, it kind of takes a little bit to get to some of the hard hitting things. But I've actually from afar have had a few questions for you even before we decided to have you on the show. So we're going to get right into it. Jim, been brought in as a CEO in two companies that I'm familiar with, Apollo and Chorus, after starting your own company, ClearSlide. And I've actually never really had that experience. I've always just been a leader at companies that I've started. What have you learned about that process and how it's different?
Getting right into your point, I think that as a founder, you know, we led ClearSlide for many years. I was a COO and co-founder. I think you realize as you evolve the startups how important people are and big missions and visions and how you align people. And so as I looked at new opportunities as we went past ClearSlide, Apollo was the first one. And by the way, it wasn't brought in. I reached out to them cold saying, what you're doing is spot on. I just think your mission's too small and I want to come talk to you. And I spent 3 or 4 months just spending time with the founding team there, getting to know them and brainstorming ideas. And it led to, hey, we think you'd be a great guy to help lead this company. And I was glad to come join them. And I'm still a board observer with them and a great group of people. So that was an example of how that happened. And in that process, we were a customer of Chorus. And I got to know Roy, who is a co-founder and previous CEO of Chorus. And we just became friends and got to know each other. And as time goes on and different paths, you're right. I got a phone call saying, hey, it'd be great to talk. And I think it's much more organic than it might seem.
That's really cool. I had no idea. And me and Andre talk about this all the time. I'm so grateful that I was in more or less the SDR role at some point, because just one single email can change the trajectory of your life to somebody that you don't know. And so I love to see, for all the, you know, people that are young in their careers out there, BDRs aren't the only ones that are doing this. And, I just encourage people to take those leaps. And so you step into these companies. And I think one of the questions that a lot of us have is around this concept of alignment. And, you know, today, like that's a word that when I was earlier on in my tenure of running a startup that frankly, I didn't assign a lot of value to. It was like, it's kind of a fluffy thing. Like we need to build a product, we need to sell it. How much, we need more features, we need more leads, we need more. It fall into one of these like kind of cultural buzzy things you'd hear, hard to measure. And as a result, like it didn't seem as high leverage as some of the more concrete, measurable things that a CEO or leader could focus on. And so talk to me about, A, how you think about alignment. And then B, I'm also curious, the rhythms and how companies are run are probably, you step into these scenarios and they're probably totally different, right? And so how do you change what that means and what those practices are when you step into a new situation like you have?
Yeah, appreciate it. This is a deep passion. There was a period of time back in my previous company that I founded where we doubled the company in a 6-month period. I think we hired 90 people in just a ridiculously fast period. And that's when you quickly find that alignment is critical. Yeah, you're onboarding people differently. And how do you get everyone pointed in the same way? And so over the last several years, Scott, I've just became passionate about two things. One is it's all about people. People is everything in these companies. And playing both roles from founder to now more of the scale on a CEO, it's about the team. So how do we get these teams aligned? And two, it's about making sure that everyone's executing with a sense of purpose around a very clear, bold vision, a true BHAG. They're aligned on the right priorities, which is the hardest part to do as you start to scale. Not each department, I mean the entire company aligned around a center group of priorities that they can really deeply see, and that we then have clear goals and defined metrics under each of those. And all of that fits on a single page, from vision, mission, to the key priorities, to the values. That is how we run Chorus. And it's a big part of how we get our team together. And then the rhythm, Scott, is the key to here. I've worked in a lot of companies, we have OKRs. I love OKRs. It's core to alignment. But a lot of times you see them on a PowerPoint slide and then, you see it at the end of the quarter and how'd everybody do.
Yeah, exactly.
I just haven't seen that work. And so, look, I'm a big plan of running all of the entire rhythm of the business around this single plan. And I think a lot of companies do this. As I talk to other leaders, this isn't uncommon. But from our all hands that we just finished today, it runs around our core priorities and our mission and our values. That's it. What are the core priorities? From building an iconic team to the platform that we're going to go win, and et cetera, et cetera. How do we then align our teams around the great work we're doing on those priorities and share it with the company? We do that at the leadership meeting. We do that at the board meeting. And we do that with our investors. It is that simple. Everything revolves around a common framework of the purpose and vision, key big priorities, big aspirational things that get you out of bed. You can feel it in your gut, and you have more than a 50% shot of achieving that. And then the values that if you don't live by, you will never see these things through. And then we added defined metrics to the bottom there. The framework is built around the Built to Last book, Jim Collins, as well as sort of the John Doerr OKR concepts. You put those two together, and those have highly influenced the way I think about the alignment sort of framework.
How do you know if you have good alignment? I mean, for me, it's like, frankly, it's not like alignment is like a lead commit. In terms of auditing it, measuring it, understanding it, so many times as a leader, I've thought I knew what good looks like, and then I see what good looks like, and I'm like, oh, that's what it's supposed to look like. And maybe you never fully can manage or understand these things as completely or cohesively as you want, but it's something that I think a lot of us struggle with, especially a lot of first-time entrepreneurs. On, how do you know if you're doing it right? What can you do?
Yeah. I think alignment is about communication, period. It isn't really about the final scores. We're going to be a great team. It's being able to communicate. We break it up into essentially 3 key components. And, when I've joined both Apollo and Chorus, I do this in my very first couple of weeks after meeting the team. I sit down with each of my leaders and we understand their mission. What's the mission of the company? And then specifically, each group builds their mission out. So what's the purpose of our marketing function? What's the bold vision that our marketing team dreams for? What's the strategy to achieve that? And what are the key values that we must follow? So each group has that. We just did you got me coming out of offsite planning, which we did yesterday with the team. And so everybody's very crisp on the words they use for how they connect to our mission and their team's mission. And then every group does a SWOT and a retro, and they do it from the bottoms up. So they get their entire teams together and ask, what are the strengths and weaknesses? What are the threats and opportunities against this mission? What went well? What didn't go so well? What did we learn? What are the action items? And then what we do is we take all of those individual components and we start to aggregate just the top items, and we have a rigorous discussion and voting. And that's how we really start to deeply understand what our top priorities are and how to then build the OKRs on what we need to focus on next. And that's the rhythm. And it's almost a ritual that we have that we just do quarter after quarter after quarter.
That's a pretty rigorous process. I love that. And Jim, earlier when you were talking about taking over as CEO of Chorus, one of the things you touched on was the importance of people, and how at the end of the day they're the ones that are going to deliver those amazing customer outcomes. They're the ones that are going to build the technology, and you need to find the best people. And you said one of your top initiatives is building an iconic team. And I think everyone has a keen understanding that that is a very important thing. It's a top priority for every leader. But in practice, it's easy to fall by the wayside and not actually devote the right amount of time that it takes to do that. I'm just curious, when you rolled out that initiative, what are some things from a strategic and tactical perspective that you've put in place to make sure that this goes the right way?
It's interesting. I mentioned the iconic team. It didn't start there. I mean, these evolve. It started with a high impact team. That was on our top priority is joining, and it evolved into different aspects of team around the Chorus way. Iconic team is what we all started to realize what we really dream for. And when I think about iconic teams out there, I look at Apple. I mean, my goodness, every time you look at Apple get up on stage, these team members have been working together for decades. And it's just, I think it's magical. I'm jealous of that. I look at LinkedIn and the team that worked together for such a long period. A couple of things that jump out, these iconic teams are having fun together. They're also pushing each other incredibly hard. I mean, these companies are achieving incredible results. It's not easy, but there's a deep trust. There's a way in which they work together where they root out the differences. They push each other when they know they're kind of off. They don't make a whipsaw decision to remove someone, but they build this trust. They stick together and they deliver remarkable results. And so our ability to go recruit a diverse team of people that will join this iconic team. And, these are just great people who will hopefully join something that one day the Valley will look back at and more beyond the Valley and say, wow, you were part of Chorus at that period. I heard that was unique, the way that team came together. That's what we strive for. This will take us 10 years. This isn't an overnight piece. But what are we doing? I mean, one of the key things is diversity. And coming out of the Black Lives Matters and the different protests that we saw at that time, we wanted to take action. And so we kicked off a company-wide initiative called Project Choir, which has now led to having 4 people in the accelerator program right now that we're developing and growing who are from underrepresented communities. It's about being more intentional on the culture. And it's about making sure that we're building a recruiting engine that truly makes sure that we're bringing in just incredible talent from all areas and making sure they have an experience with us that makes them want to come join us.
So a couple things come to mind for me because I think of iconic team. I think the first things that came to mind were the Chicago Bulls and then the PayPal Mafia. And PayPal Wars is an excellent book if anybody's curious to know more about those guys and gals. One thing I feel like I constantly just kind of personally battle with is I think we all acknowledge that people are the highest point of leverage for your business. Ultimately, that those are the people that are going to make the decisions, the innovations, do the work. And most fantastic people are happily employed. They're not looking for jobs. They have great jobs. And so like there is a lot of kind of time and energy where you're doing what you did, where you're getting to know, like you mentioned, like the Apollo scenario or the Chorus scenario where it didn't start out with an end goal in mind, but eventually you got there. And a lot of those conversations, by the way, might not go anywhere. And it's like, as an entrepreneur and executive, it's like you have your short list of people that you want to recruit and work with someday, but you might spend a ton of time and also a zillion things to do. And you might spend a ton of time with people and it might go nowhere. And so how do you like balance that like high leverage recruitment effort of passive candidates that could be a part of the dream team, but also to the extent you would like to, but also meet the needs of the business that need to get done, this day, this week, et cetera. I find it to be very, very challenging.
I mean, a couple of thoughts. I think that similar to founding a company, you need a really deep passion to overcome and build something special that's going to change the world. It's not just an idea, but you need to feel it in your bones. I think on this iconic team aspect, it was not in my bones earlier in my career. I've always known that team's important. I think I've always been recognized and worked with great people and had fun, but I didn't understand it the way I do now. And it wasn't until really after founding my company and scaling it and the ups and downs that I took time away, Scott. The minute I left, I took a week solo trip. And I went to the Grand Canyon. But it's one of those things where it's like, I need to clear the head and reboot. And I remember telling my wife, I said, I just need to get away for a week. I'll be home next Saturday for that party, but I want to be completely off the grid. I'm not going to text every day. And don't worry, I won't die, but I'll see you next Saturday. And I got a last minute reservation at the Phantom Ranch, the last minute at the very bottom of the canyon. So I hiked and I camped and I just met a lot of interesting people. This was back in 2015. And walking down that canyon with a notebook, sort of thinking about what do I want for the second half of my career? It became really clear that I'll be walking that canyon in a blink of an eye. Those rocks are old. And I was there midweek with a bunch of retirees. So I just had this feeling of like, oh my gosh, I'll be done with my career in 20 years. What do I want? And I don't think the products I build are what people are going to talk about in 20 years. They'll evolve and clearly they'll change the way people work incredibly. But the people and the way that we impact people and help people achieve things and impact their families and how they will impact our customers, that's what I wanted. And it became so clear that I wanted that's driving a lot of this, I don't know, my energy and my second half of the career around it is absolutely people first. And we are going to be the people that build and win the conversation intelligence category, but it starts with people. So when it goes to recruiting, I don't think it is finding necessarily this, absolute A player somewhere. They're an A player because they were part of an iconic team. So how do we find remarkable people that have a lot of drive and passion, that do have the raw experience that we can then put into a system and help them do the best work of their lives and to get them inspired by the vision we have? That is the focus. That's how we're going to do it. So how do we build a system to make sure we're bringing in these really passionate, driven, hungry, diverse people?
So the other thing that I think is interesting about your particular past couple tours of duty, if you will, is you've been in growing categories that are becoming, crossing the chasm, if you will, with sales engagement and now conversational intelligence, where, it's a clear, there's a handful of players. There's a handful of players. Everybody knows them. It's just a very different type of market scenario than perhaps troops where we're very evangelical. We're something new. We're a different way of doing things. It's not like we have clear cut and dry head-to-head battles like many companies. What are the key plays and opportunities that you think are applicable to anybody that would find themselves in this scenario that will put your company in a position to win?
I think that people that know what they want can always get it. For the most part, I mean, we say that more thoughtfully, but if you know what you want, it's much easier to get there. And I think that as a company, we've been very clear over the last 9 months of really what we want, where we're going, specifically around moving up market, specifically the category that we're in, the type of team we want to be and how we work together. So as we go into 2021, I think, Scott, for our side, we're really passionate about conversation intelligence. That's the category. That's what we want to be number one at. And we lead it in a very significant way today. We want to do it for the enterprise. And what we ultimately want to do is to help the enterprise develop these brilliant relationships. That's what conversations are all about, right? A series of conversations is a relationship. And if we can help people build the right relationships, guess what? They will solve problems together and we will advance people's missions faster. And that's cool. That is what I want to do, is if we can help troops and all the companies with these bold missions and visions, if we can just help you do it faster by knowing what your customers actually want, the formula that actually works to connect with them, to make better customer-centric decisions on product and marketing message, because you can tap into it at scale, then my goodness, we're going to help to really advance some really special missions out there. And I think that's been sort of consistent across the career in sales tech, is that you're helping to get a front row seat to other people's problems and you're helping to solve those problems.
That's awesome. And you guys just recently launched a new product called Momentum. Talk to me about that.
That is exactly it. Momentum is this concept that relationships are what really drive revenue. If you want to drive revenue, you need to connect with people in a meaningful way and build a real, authentic relationship, more than just create a great experience. You need to build that trust. You need to bring the best of an entire company to that interaction and get to know people the right way. So momentum is our ability to take all of the different interactions that people have, all the different conversations. And by the way, not just a single person's, the entire team's conversations, from when the CEO engaged to the SDR to the success person, and to be able to visualize that data over a series of time, and then using rich AI, really start to understand, did we have any pricing issues? Or when did we set next steps? Or was there any deal risks, and what came up? What did we learn at the individual level as well as through time? And that's what we think helps us to solve problems. If you can look at that and say, this is what this company is trying to go do, we understand them, we can solve their problem.
Look, Troops finds itself in many ways a similar place, but also solving similar problems for companies where I feel like today, with the plethora of SaaS applications, there is more data to go through and try to understand than you could possibly have time to do, could possibly have time to analyze. And the problem is no longer does the data exist, it's can I get it? And can I get it easily? And can I get it when I need it to ultimately inform decisions? And so, when I think about your category, that's, I think, the really, really exciting opportunity is to make it easier for us to pull these things out of the conversations in a way that doesn't introduce complexity and more load, frankly, to the existing workflow.
I was going to add, Scott, as a user of Troops, here's a story just from last month. I was working with our RevOps team, and we live on Troops, of course, to look at our won deals. We look at our lost opportunities that don't go our way. And one of the key things that we embed in there is now the Chorus, link of all the records of it. So when I see a won deal, first thing I do, Troops pushes it to Slack. We all celebrate it. I look at the Chorus record and I quickly understand who is involved. What did we learn? Why did they buy? Let me listen to the very first call we had with them and hear what was that pain point. And that's what I want to comment on. And specifically, close lost is where I do most of that. We see an opportunity that didn't make it. Troops pushes it out, Salesforce Troops into Slack. That's when I dig in and say, what can we learn from that? Let me quickly listen to the last call. Who were the most senior people? How much engagement did we have? Did we have a CRO on that? And what was the very first call? I mean, what did we miss here? Why aren't we doing work together? I think when you put those two together, you're creating some very special ways to understand your business.
Jim, something that I'm pretty curious about is, running Chorus, you have a really unique insight into, how the sales professional is changing, evolving, what is working and what is not. So I'm curious to get your insight on, what skill sets you think are becoming more and more important in sales and go-to-market today.
Well, just in the last 9 months with COVID, we've seen those skills and the demands of the skills change. What we're seeing right now is that everyone needs to be more comfortable selling to the C-suite. So get ready. The C-suite, whether that's the CEO or the CRO or the CFO, they're showing up 86% more on the calls than they were pre-March. That's a big difference. We're finding that there's been a 92% increase in CFOs getting involved in these deals. We see that there's a 38% increase in win rates when the C-suite's involved. So the key thing is that you got to engage the top, and also with some of the complexities of the world that we've been in and budgets being a little bit tighter, especially with some of the unknown, the C-suite has been more involved to help prioritize where money is going to be allocated, where companies invest. So being more comfortable engaging the C-suite. We also find that getting the C-suite to talk 8.5% more than is what happens when we win deals versus when we lose deals. So we need to ask the right questions. We need to get them invited, and we need to get them involved in these interactions.
This is maybe just to get a little bit tactical here. I think every sales executive professional would tell you that when you have access at those levels at an account, you're more likely to be in a position to win. Yeah. And I think what a lot of us struggle with, and frankly, why I think a lot of companies should be doing a podcast, is actually making that access a reality, making it happen, getting to the C-suite, getting to the CFO. I would be curious, like, how are you guys intentionally running plays to make that happen for your team? Are you getting involved in setting some of and kind of going, hey, you bring your general to the battle, we'll bring ours? I mean, I think it's something that a lot of us aspire to do, but making it happen can be challenging.
It goes back to that comment. If you know what you want, it's easy to get. I look at Chorus and our history. We were in different edges, selling to BDRs or different groups. I think as we've gotten really focused on this enterprise space, which has just been a remarkable opportunity. We've seen very strong success from that. Once you say we want to go to the top, it's now happening in every interaction, Scott. It's just part of the way we do business now. And I think that once you set that goal and that aspiration, that how could we ever do a deal like this without engaging the top? This is going to be the single biggest and most important investment for them, outside of their CRM. That wouldn't make any sense to not have C-level leadership involved. And they have very little access to what their customers are doing today. And we're about to solve that in a work from home environment. So I guess to answer that question, just by putting incredible focus on market, we had one of, if you look back at our prior plans, our number one goal was building these exec champions. And that's how we do it. It made it into the alignment plan. It showed up as a top item. And that's, the ways that we're kind of putting this together.
Awesome. Well, Jim, let's head over to the lightning round where we get to know a little bit more about you on the personal side.
Sure.
All right, Jim, what is one personal habit that has contributed to your success?
Habit I put together a few years back is called the top 6. It's borrowing from the Ivy Lee method. If you want to Google that, it's a 100-year-old method, but it's very simple. Force rank your top 6 most important things that you need to work on. And in the Ivy Lee method, they build it daily. We do this now company-wide, but each week we just have our top 6 each leader, and it matches our key objectives. I'm religious on this. I just think this is how you get things done, and you get really focused on what matters most, and you force rank it, and you work it down.
What is the kindest thing someone has ever done for you, Jim?
It's funny. I saw this morning. I was like, shoot, there's been so many people, and you're trying to rack your mind. The thing that came to mind was we took the previous company I founded. We took the Excellence Club, like a President's Club. We took our top performers across the company at Cabo. We happened to get hit by a class Category 4 hurricane, direct hit, first time in 30 years in Cabo. It came out of nowhere, from a Friday to Sunday. We were trapped, and we rode this thing out, and it was insane. We got trapped there for a week. There was looting. It was not a good situation. Food, water, all the craziness. You can Google it. And at the very end, we realized we had to get out of there. We made a call. We huddled and said, we got to vote, but it's time to go. We're about to get hit by the looters tonight, and we got to find a way out of here. And so we split up the group, and we sent most of the people up north to the Plaza Airport, where we got some vans. We sent 3 guys out to the marina, about 30 minutes away, to see if we could find a satellite phone. We ended up finding an expat in the marina who had a pickup truck. He came up, he said, look, let me take you to the airport that's been demolished. In the last hurricane, they did humanitarian flights there back in the 70s. I think that'll happen again. So we went against the grain for 45 minutes. Anyways, we ended up getting home on a humanitarian flight, but that gentleman played a big role in getting us home safely.
All right, so Jim, 6 months from now, what do you think your biggest challenge will be?
I think figuring out the office space. I think, all of us are going to have to figure out what this hybrid world's going to look like when we go back to offices, but not everybody's there. And are we on Zoom? Are we not on Zoom? We'll figure it out. It'll be awesome, but it's going to be a challenge to figure out how we all work once the office becomes a reality again. Maybe that's 9 months, maybe that's 12 months away.
What is your favorite personal productivity tool right now?
Right now, it would be the Notability app on a big 12.9 iPad with a pen. It's just the Notability makes it incredibly easy to take notes with the Zoom and all sorts of stuff. But I've enjoyed writing again on a big iPad that's next to me at all times.
I'm going to have to check that out. Well, Jim, thanks for coming on the show. Really excited to watch you guys fly this next year. And excited about taking advantage of some of all the amazing innovations that your team is putting out there. So really, really appreciate you. And yeah, I mean, are you a big Twitter person, LinkedIn person? If people want to see all the amazing kind of follow along the Jim journey, where's the best way for them to stay in touch with you?
I've been embracing LinkedIn. So you can find me on LinkedIn, and I appreciate that, Scott. Thanks.
Awesome. All right. Well, we'll see everybody on the next show. Thank you so much.